Yeah, good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Karen. Yes, all the indications are that despite the fact that they hate her flagship Brexit policy, they hate the blood, sweat and tears that she's put into this, they hate every line of it, the fact of the matter is they don't have a better alternative. And at the moment, they don't have a clear candidate to replace her as well. So you have this extraordinary situation, perhaps even more extraordinary for our viewers internationally, where her own party voted resoundingly, or at least 118 MPs of her own, plus her backers in the DUP, 10 of them as well, resoundingly against her withdrawal bill, but actually will vote resoundingly for her because they don't want Jeremy Corbyn to use this no confidence vote as a platform for a new general election. And of course that would be the inevitable result if indeed this government or indeed any other government cannot get the confidence of the House as well. So what does she do next? Well, let's presume, and let's go down the road on this, that she does win this vote tonight. That buys her a little bit of time. She said last night, and again it was ambiguous, that she would reach out across the floor to try and get some form of cross-party consensus with senior parliamentarians. She didn't mention the Labour leader. She didn't say she'd be reaching out to him as well. So who is she going to be reaching out to as well? Maybe the Yvette Coopers of this world. But if she does that, the price for Labour and Liberals and SNP and others to back her could well be her dropping of her opposition to a customs union with the EU as well. Now, that has been, up till now, a red line. Customs union and single market for Mrs May. She said she doesn't want to have that as part of the relationship going forward. But if she were to drop those red lines and go towards the centre and go towards the opposition, she could lose even more support on her backbenches as well. She would certainly lose the support, of course, of those ERG-type hard Brexiteers who voted so vehemently against her last night. So then there is a trap for her. And, of course, many of her own parties said, don't go across the floor, don't go for customs union because we can't go with you on this as well. And there was mood music from the Tory chairman, Brandon Lewis, along those lines last night. So in the meantime, then she has to come back to Parliament within 3 days, that's Monday at the latest, and say what her plan B is. And then she could be on very sticky ground, actually, because if plan B isn't good enough, there could be moves for parliamentarians. Oliver Letwin's been mentioned quite a lot as well from her own party, of taking control of the process and actually leaving the government to basically just carry out the actions, carry out the plan of Parliament. But as we've said time and time again, this Parliament knows very clearly what it doesn't want. It doesn't necessarily have a majority view of what it does want. Now, what about the other scenario? And that is that's been talked about quite a lot, of a second referendum. Well, there are many, many issues about this as well, including the fact that nobody knows what the question would be. Would it be a simple in-out question again? Because now, of course, you have various options on the table, including Mrs May's version of Brexit. You could have a Norway version of Brexit, same kind of relationship with the EU that Norway has as well, or indeed a Canada Plus. So it could be very convoluted. So how do you get a majority for any of those views if it isn't a simple in-out question? So that makes a second referendum, even if there are many advocates of it, and we think at least 100 Labour MPs and 10 Tory MPs today will say we favour a second referendum. What would the question be? Again, another big issue. One more final point as well. Yvette Cooper is saying we do need now an extension because there's just too much business to be concluded in Parliament before March 29th as well. Again, that is another scenario. Again, but there are others, including, as I say, those hard Brexiteers who want the clock run down and a hard Brexit scenario.
Steve, can I just get to what the market interpretation was? If we saw the pound reaction last night, you had about a 1% fall initially, then pound started to recover. And some of the writing from the investment banks and the traders was that the chance of a hard Brexit had started to disappear slightly, which I don't know is completely accurate. Do you want to weigh in on this? Because it seems as though if there was still a pathway to hard Brexit like we saw yesterday, EIG was willing to take that option rather than siding with Theresa May just to get a Brexit deal done.
Yeah, I think you're right, Karen. I think the market has made a very big assumption, just like it does on Federal Reserve interest rates as well. But I think you're spot on. I think the market has made it was swan-like, wasn't it? The market reactions to this outstanding defeat, and they've assumed, okay, this could be the high watermark for the hard Brexiteers, because the rest of the parliamentarians, whatever they don't want, they don't definitely want, and a majority of them don't want a hard Brexit. So again, maybe the hard Brexit option, which Mrs May has talked about as her default, that Mr. Peter Bone talked about yesterday, the MP for Wellingborough, to us. Again, he's a very hard Brexiteer as the preferred option now. Sammy Wilson from the DUP saying there's nothing to fear from that as well. So many people are saying that actually that could be the high watermark for the hard Brexiteers, and that's the market assumption, isn't it? That we're moving to either no Brexit or a softer form of Brexit. But I think you're spot on in your analysis there.
Steve, in a perverse way, I think Theresa May comes out of this looking stronger. She faced a Conservative threat within her own party. She survived that. She cannot face that again within a year. She has a year to figure this out. She now goes into a no confidence motion with Jeremy Corbyn, which, if the DUP and the hardline Brexiteers support her, she will win. That makes Jeremy Corbyn look somewhat enfeebled and raises questions about what his purpose in life is. And she has now a mandate from her own party to go back to Brussels and try to renegotiate. Now, whether Brussels is willing to do that remains to be seen at this point. Brussels' line has been consistently, well, tell us what you want. If anything, this vote now gives them a clear idea of what Parliament wants is not the deal that's on the table, something else that doesn't keep the UK in a customs union and, more importantly, doesn't keep the UK wedded indefinitely to the backstop. Maybe with a few tweaks, maybe with a line that says the UK could unilaterally get out of the backstop, we might actually see some progress on a deal. What do you think of that line of reasoning?
I think it's solid in the fact that no one else is a clear candidate to get this job. And I was talking to a few people around the traps here in the bubble in Westminster yesterday, and I was like, well, there's some strange alliances being built up. Brexiteers and Remainers trying to work out whether there's couplings that could create a strong platform for a challenge on Mrs May were she to decide to step down. Because, as you quite rightly said, the Tories can't force her out now because they've had that election as well. But Jeff, the only thing I will say, which is slightly contrary to what you're saying there, is the scale of the defeat was absolutely off the Richter scale. Even like a couple of hours before the vote, her own whips were thinking, do you know what, we might get away with 80 Tory MPs rebelling. She had 118 as well. And the fact of the matter is, because obviously it went so resoundingly wrong, so many MPs, I should say government ministers within her cabinet, within the broader government as well, may think actually now it's time to, they've shown their loyalty to Mrs May by voting with her, maybe they can pull away and think about other alternatives as well. But it's the scale of the defeat, plus the fact, as we know, this blueprint, this withdrawal bill, has her fingerprint absolutely all over it. There is no one else who has the same identity with this as well. It's not the Brexit minister, it's not the Home Secretary, it's not the Foreign Secretary. This is Mrs May's policy, and it's been so resoundingly defeated. One would ask, well, what else does she stand for? What else does she have in her armoury as well? I think she's only got in her armoury the fact that no one else necessarily thinks they can control the party, control the process, and actually win round Parliament and win round the country as well. So I think there are some questions. As far as Jeremy Corbyn is concerned, he's gone for the no confidence vote. He looks like he'll lose this. The rumours are that he's going to keep on plugging away every time he can put a no confidence vote in. He will, but he will be under pressure, as I mentioned today, to perhaps look at the prospect of a second referendum. Something so far he's resisted, something so far he hasn't wanted to do. But as I say, there are reports that up to 100 Labour MPs, which is a significant part of the opposition, will be pressing Jeremy Corbyn to come out in favour of a second referendum.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.